First contact. Ethan sat quietly in the bustling cafe, sipping his coffee and watching the world go by through the large window, when his phone vibrated sharply against the wooden table. The caller ID flashed a number he didn't recognize, but intuition nudged him to answer. "Hello, Ethan Sterling?" The voice on the other end was brisk, authoritative. "Yes, speaking. This is Director James Caldwell from the National Security Office. I need you to come to headquarters immediately. It's a matter of national security involving your expertise in linguistics." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Can I ask what this is about? We will discuss details upon your arrival. Please, it's urgent." 20 minutes later, Ethan was ushered into a stark, secure room at the agency, where Director Caldwell and another man, introduced as Agent Mark Reynolds, awaited him. Maps and digital screens covered the walls, and a palpable sense of urgency filled the room. "Mr. Sterling, thank you for coming on such short notice," Caldwell began. "Early this morning, an unidentified object landed in a remote area of Nevada. It's extraterrestrial. We've established a perimeter and set up a communication post, but we need someone with your skills to help us understand them." Ethan's eyes widened. "You mean there are aliens?" "Yes," Agent Reynolds chimed in, leaning forward. He slid a tablet across the table displaying images of a sleek, metallic craft and a being of slender build with iridescent skin. "We managed to detain one for questioning. Your job is to help us communicate with it." "How am I supposed to do that?" Ethan asked, his mind racing. "We have preliminary data suggesting they use a complex vocal system, possibly a language," Caldwell explained. "Your expertise in phonetics and syntax could be the key to breaking down these barriers." "And if I refuse?" Ethan asked, though curiosity was already getting the better of him. "This is bigger than any of us," Caldwell said sternly. "We need you, Ethan. Humanity needs you." Ethan nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of the situation. "I'll do it. When do we start?" "We're flying you to Nevada immediately. Agent Reynolds will accompany you," Caldwell said as Reynolds stood, extending his hand to Ethan. "Welcome aboard, Ethan. It's going to be a groundbreaking mission." The flight was short, and upon landing, Ethan was met with a scene straight out of a sci-fi movie. The desert base was bustling with activity, and the alien craft, under heavy guard, gleamed under the harsh sun. Reynolds led Ethan to a secure facility where the alien was being held. As they entered the room, Ethan saw her for the first time. The alien, Aria, as they had named her, stood calmly, her bright eyes observing every new face curiously. "Ethan Sterling," he introduced himself gently, trying not to frighten her. "I'm here to help, to talk." Aria tilted her head, watching his lips move. After a moment of silence, she responded with a series of melodic tones that filled the room. The sound was unlike anything Ethan had ever heard. "Seems like you're up, Ethan," Reynolds whispered, a hint of awe in his voice. Ethan took a deep breath, stepping closer. "Let's start with the basics," he murmured, and thus began humanity's first true dialogue with another world. Chapter 2. The Alien Enigma. Inside the high-security mobile lab near the alien craft's landing site, Ethan sat opposite Aria, separated only by a clear, reinforced barrier. Beside him, Agent Reynolds and Dr. Leo Martinez, a behavioral scientist, monitored Aria's responses through the glass. The air was thick with anticipation as Ethan prepared his tools, a notebook, audio recorder, and a tablet displaying various linguistic symbols. "So, we start simple," Ethan murmured, glancing at his colleagues. He turned back to Aria, pointing to himself. "Ethan." Aria watched intently, her gaze flicking between Ethan and his pointed finger. Then, mimicking the motion, She touched her chest lightly and emitted a gentle, flowing sound, aria. "Good, that's good," Ethan exclaimed, his excitement palpable. Dr. Martinez scribbled notes furiously, while Reynolds nodded approvingly. Ethan proceeded to point at various objects around the room, enunciating each word clearly. "Table, light, glass." Arya repeated the sounds, her voice melodic and alien, distorting the familiar words into something new and mesmerizing. "Her phonetic range is incredible," Dr. Martinez whispered, his eyes wide with fascination. "It's like she can modulate frequencies we can't even perceive." As the session progressed, Reynolds leaned in, his expression serious. "Ask her about the ship, Ethan. We need to know why they're here." Ethan nodded, his demeanor shifting to match the gravity of the question. He turned back to Arya, his tone gentle but firm. "Arya, your ship. Why come here?" Arya's response was a series of harmonic tones that fluctuated rapidly. The translation devices struggled for a moment before outputting. "Learning. Seeking. Sharing. Does that mean there are more of you?" Reynolds asked, stepping closer to the barrier. Arya's eyes shifted to Reynolds, and she replied with a complex pattern of sounds that took longer to translate. "Many. Not here. This one. Emissary." "An emissary," Dr. Martinez muttered, "sent to learn about us, perhaps even to establish some form of relationship." "Or to prepare for others to come," Reynolds added, his tone laced with suspicion. Ethan raised his hand for silence, focusing on Arya. "What do you wish to learn from us?" The answer came quicker this time, the devices rendering all. "Your world. Your life. Unity." "This is phenomenal," Ethan said, turning to his colleagues. "She's not here to invade, but to understand, maybe even to help us understand more about ourselves and the universe." Reynolds remained skeptical, but Dr. Martinez was nodding enthusiastically. "We need to report this immediately. The potential for this kind of interstellar relationship could change everything." The men gathered their notes and recordings, and as they left the room, Ethan looked back at Arya, who watched them leave with an expression of what might have been hope or curiosity. In the debriefing room, the team laid out their initial findings to a group of high-ranking officials via video link. "Her intelligence is off the charts," Dr. Martinez explained, "and she seems eager to engage with us on peaceful terms." Reynolds spoke up, "But we must proceed with caution. We can't just take her at her word." Ethan finished the briefing with a strong note of advocacy. "We have an unprecedented opportunity to advance human knowledge and maybe even find a peaceful place in a broader cosmic community. We should embrace this, cautiously, yes, but wholeheartedly." As the meeting adjourned, the men felt the weight of what lay ahead. They were on the precipice of a new era, and every step mattered. Chapter 3. Bridge of Understanding. The following morning, Ethan returned to the secure mobile lab with a new set of tools and an enhanced translator, upgraded overnight to handle the nuances of Arya's language. Accompanying him was Dr. Simon Hayes, an expert in xenopsychology, brought in to help navigate the emotional and psychological aspects of interspecies communication. "Morning, Ethan," greeted Dr. Hayes, setting up his equipment beside Ethan's workstation. "I've been reading over your notes from yesterday." "Fascinating stuff." Ethan nodded, his focus on the screens displaying Arya's vital signs and mood indicators. "We made good progress, but there's a long way to go. Today, I want to dive deeper into her culture, see what unity means to her people." As Arya was led into the room by security, she appeared calm, her movements graceful and deliberate. She took her usual place opposite Ethan, her eyes briefly scanning the new face of Dr. Hayes before returning to Ethan's familiar gaze. "Ethan," Arya vocalized clearly, the translator capturing her tone more accurately than before. "Arya," Ethan responded with a smile. "This is Dr. Simon Hayes," he gestured towards Simon. "He's here to help us understand each other better." "Help." "Good," Arya repeated, nodding towards Simon, who smiled warmly back at her. Ethan started the session by displaying images on a tablet, landscapes of Earth, scenes of human activities, and various artworks. For each image, he asked Arya to describe similar scenes from her world. Arya's responses, translated in real time, painted a picture of a planet with vast oceans and towering structures, where unity was not just a concept but the foundation of society. Dr. Hayes interjected with questions about social interactions and emotional expressions among her people, intrigued by her descriptions of communal living and shared consciousness. "How do you handle conflict?" Simon asked, his tone careful, noting Arya's previously recorded stress response to conflict-related topics. "Conflict rare. Harmony priority," the translator relayed. "Share thoughts. Share feelings. Understand deep." "That's remarkable," Simon noted, scribbling down notes. "There's much we could learn from such a societal structure." Ethan, building on this rapport, introduced a new topic. "Arya, can you tell us about your leaders? How is your society governed?" "Leaders? No one. All decide. All voices equal," she explained, her voice emitting a soothing series of tones that hinted at pride. Ethan and Simon exchanged a look of amazement. "A truly democratic system, it seems," Ethan mused aloud. The session evolved into a deeper dialogue about philosophy and governance, with Ethan and Simon learning as much about alien social structures as they shared about human diversity and cultural complexity. Arya was particularly interested in the concept of art and individual expression, which seemed less prevalent in her uniform culture. As the day progressed, the boundaries of the conversation expanded, with each party growing more comfortable in the exchange. Before they concluded, Ethan decided to touch upon a more personal aspect. "Arya, how do you feel being here with us?" he asked gently. "Curious. Learning. Grateful," Arya responded, her tone suggesting a hint of warmth. "Ethan. Simon. Good. Safe. That's good to hear, Arya. We hope to make you feel as comfortable as possible," Ethan replied, his voice reflecting genuine care. Dr. Hayes, closing his notebook, added, "Your insight is invaluable, Arya. We're all here to learn from each other." As they wrapped up the session, Ethan and Simon left the lab deep in conversation about the day's revelations. The drive to bridge their worlds with understanding and mutual respect was stronger than ever, propelling them forward into uncharted territory, yet filled with potential for profound connections. Chapter 4. The Harsh Interrogation. The atmosphere in the secure facility had shifted dramatically. Word of Arya's cooperation had spread up the chain of command, prompting the arrival of Colonel Jack Warner, a military intelligence officer with a reputation for his hard-nosed approach to security. His presence in the lab was a stark contrast to the previously open and exploratory sessions. Dr. Sterling, Dr. Hayes, Colonel Warner greeted curtly as he entered the room. His gaze then turned to Arya, who was already seated and observing the new dynamics. "I've been briefed, but now we need to accelerate our understanding. This isn't a university lecture series. It's a matter of national security." Ethan exchanged a worried look with Simon before addressing the colonel. "Colonel, our approach has been yielding significant results." "And I respect that, Doctor," Warner interjected sharply. "But we're shifting gears. We need to know potential threats, military capabilities, defensive technologies. You've got the carrot. I'm here with the stick." Simon stepped forward, trying to keep the peace. "Colonel, aggressive tactics might close her off to any further communication. We risk losing all the progress we've made." Colonel Warner merely nodded at Agent Reynolds, who had remained silent until now. Reynolds approached the intercom system. "Arya, we need to discuss your people's defensive technologies now." Arya's expression, once open and curious, clouded over. She responded in her melodious tone, which the translator rendered as fear, danger, not understand. Warner leaned forward, his voice stern. "Arya, this is crucial. We need to know if there's a threat to our planet." The pressure escalated quickly. Arya's responses became terse and confused, her stress evident as her voice's pitch increased. Ethan saw her visibly shaking, her hands clasping and unclasping in anxiety. "Ethan, do something," Simon whispered urgently under his breath. Ethan felt a surge of protectiveness. He addressed the colonel. "Please, let me try to explain to her why we're asking these questions." Before Warner could respond, Arya's condition worsened dramatically. Her lights flickered, her voice halted mid-sentence, and she slumped forward. The room went into immediate alert. "She's having a cardiac event," Simon shouted, reading the biometric outputs that screamed warnings. Colonel Warner stood frozen for a moment before barking out orders. "Get medical in here now." Ethan rushed to the barrier, his hands pressed against the clear material. "Arya, hold on please," he pleaded. Medical personnel burst into the room, equipped with advanced alien-compatible medical kits. They worked on Arya, administering emergency care designed from the preliminary biological data previously gathered. After tense moments, Arya's condition stabilized. The medical team managed to get her heart rhythm back to normal. An eerie silence enveloped the room as everyone processed the near disaster. Colonel Warner, his demeanor softened by the incident, spoke quietly to Ethan. "All right, Doctor. Your way. But understand, we can't just walk on eggshells. We need answers." Ethan nodded, his gaze fixed on Arya, who was slowly regaining consciousness. "We'll get them, Colonel, but we do it without causing harm. We have to build trust, not fear." Reynolds stepped up, offering his support. "He's right, sir. We push too hard, and we might lose our only link to her world." Colonel Warner sighed, stepping back. "Proceed, Dr. Sterling. But keep me directly informed." As the room cleared and calm was restored, Ethan and Simon remained by Arya's side, watching her slowly recover. The incident had drawn them closer, a silent pact forming among them to protect their new friend and ensure her safety above all else. Chapter 5. Hidden Refuge. The near-disastrous interrogation had left a deep impact on Ethan, reinforcing his resolve to protect Arya. With Colonel Warner's begrudging approval, Ethan, along with Simon and Agent Reynolds, devised a plan to move Arya to a more secluded location where she could recover, and they could continue their work without military pressure. Late one night, under the guise of transferring Arya to another secure facility, Ethan and his team escorted her to a hidden cabin deep within a national forest. The cabin, equipped with the necessary amenities and reinforced for security, was far removed from prying eyes. As they arrived, Arya, still weak but stable, looked around with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "Safe?" she asked, her voice a soft chime. "Safe," Ethan confirmed, helping her inside. "You can heal here, Arya. We're away from the military, and it's just us." Reynolds locked the door behind them and checked the perimeter. "We'll have regular patrols, but only a few trusted people know about this place." Simon set up some medical monitoring equipment by Arya's side, ensuring she was comfortable. "We can continue our sessions here, Arya. No more interrogations, just conversations." "Thank you, Ethan, Simon, friend," Arya said, looking towards Reynolds, who offered a small, unexpected smile in return. Over the next few days, Ethan and Simon worked closely with Arya, delving deeper into her culture and discussing Earth's many societies. Each conversation helped Arya regain her strength, her curiosity about human behavior growing with each discussion. One evening, as they sat around a small fire outside the cabin, Arya shared more about her journey to Earth. Long travel. Much alone. Learn much here. Ethan, wrapped in a blanket, passed her a warm mug. And we've learned a lot from you. There's so much we can share with each other. Reynolds, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke up. It's not just about learning, though. It's about understanding. Really understanding each other. Simon nodded, adding, "It's rare to find such an opportunity, Arya. Two completely different civilizations opening up to each other without conflict. It's beautiful." Arya looked from face to face, absorbing their sincere expressions. "Unity," she murmured, the firelight reflecting in her eyes. "You seek unity like us." "Yes," Ethan replied, his voice firm. "Despite our differences, our fears, we all seek connection. Unity." The nights at the cabin turned into weeks, with each day bringing new insights and deepening the bond between the human trio and their alien guest. They shared stories of Earth's history and art, while Arya sang songs from her world that filled the evenings with haunting melodies. Their isolation was a peaceful one, punctuated only by the occasional delivery of supplies and messages from the outside world, handled discreetly by Reynolds. The calm of the forest and the routine they established created a bubble of tranquility where Arya could recover fully and where true understanding seemed possible. One morning, as they gathered for breakfast, Ethan proposed a new phase of their work. "Arya, would you be comfortable recording some of your stories, your songs? We think the world should know, should understand who you are beyond the fears they might have." Arya's eyes lit up, a smile gracing her features. "Share." "Yes. We learn from share. You learn from listen." Reynolds, who had grown more protective of Arya than anyone could have anticipated, chimed in, "Let's do it right. We'll start a series of broadcasts, nothing live, pre-recorded, edited by us. We control the narrative, ensure it's respectful, accurate." Simon clapped his hands together, excited. This could change everything. It's not just a study now. It's a message of peace and unity. The group spent the remainder of the day planning, filled with a renewed sense of purpose. They were not just a team but friends, united by a common goal to bridge worlds, one conversation, one song at a time. Chapter 6. A Quiet Rebellion. As the recordings of Arya's stories and songs began, Ethan, Simon, and Reynolds worked diligently to ensure each session was respectful and true to Arya's intent. They converted a section of the cabin into a makeshift studio, where Arya felt comfortable and at ease sharing her heritage. One morning, as they reviewed the footage from the previous day, Ethan reflected on their progress. "We're capturing something truly special here. Arya, how do you feel about the stories we've shared so far?" Arya nodded, her expression serene. "Good. Understanding grows. Hope spreads." Simon, looking over the audio levels and edits, chimed in, "The quality is solid, and her message, powerful. We might just make a difference with this." Reynolds, always the pragmatist, kept an eye on the broader implications. "Once we release these, there'll be questions, demands for more direct contact with Arya. We need to be prepared for that." The trio acknowledged the complexity of their situation. They decided to prepare a detailed plan for gradually introducing their project to the public, starting with academic circles and selected non-governmental organizations dedicated to peaceful extraterrestrial contact. As they outlined their strategy, there was a knock on the door. Reynolds cautiously peered through the peephole before opening it to reveal Dr. Helen Choi, an expert in intercultural communication, invited to assist with the project's public phase. "Dr. Choi, welcome," Ethan greeted, extending his hand. We're just going over our plan to bring this project into the public eye. Dr. Choi, carrying a stack of her notes and publications, smiled warmly at the group. I've been following your work with great interest. What you're doing here could redefine human-alien interaction. I'm here to help craft the message. Together, they spent the afternoon discussing various outreach strategies, focusing on educational impact and cultural sensitivity. Dr. Choi suggested a series of webinars and interactive sessions where Arya could share her experiences indirectly through the recorded materials, thus maintaining her safety while still engaging with a curious public. Interaction without direct exposure, Dr. Choi summarized. It allows us to control the narrative and ensure Arya's voice is heard without subjecting her to potential threats. That's our main concern, Reynolds added, his tone serious. Arya's safety is our priority. Anything we plan has to reinforce that. Ethan nodded, grateful for the collective commitment to protect their friend. Let's draft some initial materials, focusing on themes of unity and learning. We can gauge the reaction from a smaller audience before we go broader. The group agreed, and over the next few days, they worked tirelessly. Arya, too, was involved in every step, ensuring her messages were accurately translated and conveyed. Finally, they were ready for a soft launch. They organized a small, private online seminar with selected academics and peace activists. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with participants expressing deep appreciation for the chance to learn directly from an extraterrestrial being without the sensationalism often associated with such revelations. Encouraged by the success, the team planned a larger public release. We're starting a quiet rebellion, Simon joked one evening as they reviewed feedback. Not with protests or conflicts, but with understanding and dialogue. Exactly, Ethan agreed, his eyes on Arya, who had just finished another recording session. We're showing that humanity can handle this, that we're ready for a place in the cosmic community, as equals and learners. As night fell over the secluded cabin, the group felt a rare sense of accomplishment and anticipation. They were on the brink of changing how the world saw not just aliens, but also themselves. Chapter 7. The Presentation. The day of the larger public presentation arrived, and the cabin was abuzz with final preparations. Dr. Choi had arranged for the event to be streamed to a carefully curated audience, including influential thinkers, policymakers, and the general public interested in extraterrestrial communication. Ethan, Simon, Reynolds, and Dr. Choi gathered in the temporary studio they had set up, reviewing every detail of the presentation. Arya, dressed in a simple, elegant garment that reflected her culture, watched the preparations with keen interest. "Everything looks good on our end," Reynolds reported, checking the security protocols one last time. "We've got a secure feed, and backup systems are ready just in case." Dr. Choi nodded, looking over the agenda. "We'll start with an introduction by Ethan, then move to the pre-recorded segments with Arya's message. Simon, you'll handle the Q&A session, and I'll wrap things up with the call to action." Ethan adjusted his microphone, practicing his opening lines. "Today, we share with you a groundbreaking dialogue that transcends worlds and brings us closer to understanding our place in the cosmos." Simon checked the connection to the audience's questions feed, ensuring they could interact in real time. "The Q&A will be crucial. We need to be transparent and thoughtful in our responses." As the clock neared the hour, Arya approached Ethan, her expression calm yet filled with a subtle nervous energy. "Ethan, thank you. For voice. For peace." Ethan smiled reassuringly. "It's you they want to hear, Arya. We're just here to support you." The presentation began with Ethan's introduction, outlining their journey and the significance of their findings. As he spoke, images of their work, snippets of Arya's songs, and scenes from the cabin life they shared were displayed behind him. Then, the screen shifted to Arya, who began to speak in her melodious voice, subtitled for the audience. "Humans of Earth, I come in learning and peace. Our worlds are different, yet we share the desire for understanding and harmony." The chat feed lit up with questions and comments from viewers, expressing awe and curiosity. Simon moderated the session, selecting questions that allowed Arya to explain her culture's approach to governance, environmental stewardship, and technological advancements. "What can we learn from your technology, especially in terms of environmental conservation?" one viewer asked. Arya responded with enthusiasm, detailing her planet's methods for sustainable living, which included advanced energy systems and a global commitment to ecological balance. As the presentation drew to a close, Dr. Choi took the stage, emphasizing the importance of this interstellar dialogue. "Today, we stand at the threshold of a new era. Let us proceed with curiosity, respect, and an open heart." The feedback from the audience was overwhelmingly positive, with many expressing gratitude for the chance to hear directly from an extraterrestrial being in such a respectful and enlightening format. After the presentation, the team gathered around Arya, congratulating her on her performance. Reynolds, who had watched the audience reactions closely, was particularly impressed. "You did great, Arya. I think we've managed to change some minds today." Simon laughed, relief evident in his voice. "More than just some, I'd wager. We've started something big here." Ethan looked at Arya, pride and gratitude filling his eyes. "You've given us a precious gift, Arya. The chance to bridge not just two worlds, but all of us here." As they cleaned up the makeshift studio, the group felt a profound sense of accomplishment. They had not only managed to introduce humanity to a peaceful alien visitor, but had also laid the groundwork for a future where such interactions might become commonplace, changing the fabric of human understanding forever. Chapter 8: New Beginnings. The aftermath of the successful presentation saw a global buzz about the possibilities of peaceful extraterrestrial contact. Emails and invitations poured in from around the world, requesting further engagement with Arya and the team. As the sun rose over the secluded cabin, Ethan, Simon, Reynolds, and Dr. Choi gathered for a critical discussion about the future. "Look at this," Simon said, scrolling through his tablet loaded with responses from viewers and experts. "Universities, research institutions, even some governments are interested in setting up dialogues based on our model." Ethan sipped his coffee, feeling the weight of their achievements. "We've started a conversation on a global scale. Now, we need to think about how we can continue this responsibly." Reynolds, who had been liaising with security agencies to ensure their operation remained secure, added, "We've also got to consider Arya's wishes. She's not just a voice for her people. She's become a friend and a partner." Arya joined them, her presence now familiar and immensely comforting. "Many talking, many listening." "Good," she said, her voice reflecting her approval. Dr. Choi nodded, arranging her notes. "We're in a unique position to advocate for a new kind of diplomatic protocol, one that includes voices from other worlds. But we need a structured approach to handle this." The group agreed to establish a foundation, the Cosmic Dialogue Initiative, that would facilitate and expand their efforts to foster interstellar communication and understanding. Ethan was appointed as the director, with Simon heading research and education, Reynolds overseeing operations and security, and Dr. Choi leading public engagement and policy development. "As director, my first goal is to ensure that our operations expand with integrity," Ethan stated. "We'll need to set up protocols for interactions, ensuring we keep the core values of respect and peace at the forefront." Reynolds looked over to Arya, considering her safety and comfort. "We'll continue to enhance our security measures, not just for Arya, but for all future delegates who might come through this initiative." Simon was already brainstorming the educational aspects. "Imagine a series of workshops, seminars, even virtual reality experiences that can bring Aria's world to students and curious minds globally without overwhelming her or her people. Dr. Choi was focused on the broader implications. And I'll start drafting proposals for international bodies. We need to create a framework that can be adopted universally. This isn't just about one successful presentation. It's about setting a precedent. As the meeting drew to a close, they walked outside the cabin, taking in the crisp morning air. The serene environment around them mirrored the hopeful and determined atmosphere among the team. Aria, standing beside Ethan, looked up at the sky, her thoughts on her distant home. More learn, more share, she said, a statement that had become her motto. Ethan placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Together, Aria. We'll keep learning and sharing, together. The team spent the rest of the day planning the launch of their initiative, discussing potential challenges and opportunities. As the sun set, they gathered once more outside, looking at the stars, now not just as distant points of light, but as homes to potential friends and allies. "Here's to new beginnings," Simon toasted, holding up his glass. "To new friends and new worlds," Reynolds added. Dr. Choi smiled, her eyes reflecting a hopeful future. "To understanding and peace." Aria, absorbing the warmth and camaraderie, simply said, "Unity." The story concluded with the group standing together, not just as colleagues, but as pioneers of a new era where humanity would no longer look up at the night sky with fear, but with curiosity and an open heart, ready to embrace whatever and whoever might come their way.